If you had to know what it was you wanted to do, it would probably be positive impact in some way, shape, or form. But do you get stuck on the, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how I would deliver my purpose to the world.
I think the how is really hard for people. Just because you know where you want to go in the GPS, and you know where you are now, self-awareness, and you know the vehicle, okay, I'm going to take a truck, not a car. Do you know how to drive a truck?
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was 3 simple mindset shifts to improve your relationship now. Today, for episode number 1108, a common mistake when it comes to your purpose. I went on a show the other day, and this is a question I get asked very often that has really made me reflect on the level at which I answer. If you asked me about my purpose 5 years ago, I would have said, your purpose is what you're supposed to be doing, or something. Probably like your purpose is the thing that you're happiest doing. Now when people say, how does somebody find their purpose? I always say this. I think one of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to finding their purpose is oftentimes they look externally. When more often than not, I believe your purpose has already been lived in some way, shape, or form. So the goal in this episode is to break it up into this. And I'm sure Alan will take these two and then bring it to a deeper level. But I think you have your purpose, what you're meant to be doing, and you have the vehicle, the way with which you're supposed to be delivering your purpose to the world. I think many of us think to ourselves, I want to help. I think this is your purpose. I want to help blank in blank way by doing blank, kind of. And maybe the blank way is by doing blank. But I want to help the world in this way by doing this. So I want to help the world when it comes to litter by cleaning up the oceans. Right? That's your purpose. What's the vehicle? How do you do it? I believe a lot of people understand what they want to do. They just don't know how to do it yet. So that's our goal today. If you can look at it from a new perspective of not what do I want to do. If you had to know what it was you wanted to do, it would probably be positive impact in some way, shape, or form. But do you get stuck on the, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how I would deliver my purpose to the world. That's our jam today.
So I was telling Kev...
Hard to explain, Jeff.
Yeah, no, it's not an easy task, brother. Finding your purpose in general, you gotta remember when we used to ask guests, when we used to have guests? No. Remember we used to ask guests on the Hyperconscious podcast, one question each at the end? Mm-hmm. We always ended with the same question.
I remember yours.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Yours was, what do you want to accomplish before you die?
Yep.
Which essentially is like, what is your purpose? And then mine was, what about you never changed?
Yep.
You've grown, evolved, shifted, but what about you never changed? Both of those questions in hindsight, and we were apparently deeper than we thought, are basically what is your destiny? What is your purpose? Why are you here? Right? Because think about it. What do you want to accomplish before you die is indicative of what your purpose is. Mm. And then what about you never changed? Meaning this is the one constant that you've always been doing, even though you didn't know you were doing it. And I remember you telling me about a girl that you were dating, and you were like coaching her and like helping her with her life.
Sounds
and
accurate.
then we talk about your Facebook video in 2012, or did you go back and find out when it was? Was
2016.
It 2012? No, 2016. Okay. We thought it was much older than that.
I wish it was. But again, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So we could say it was 1998 if you want.
No. So was that the BEFD thing?
No, I think that was completely different. So
because I remember the first video you ever made on Facebook might have actually been 2012 because it was BEFD. When was BEFD? What year?
Oh, God. I don't know. We graduated in 2007, so it wouldn't have been 2012. It was probably around that same time, 2015, 2016.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Kevin had a very mini, I guess, about to be business at one point with one of his partners. For those of you who have kids listening, cover your kids' earmuffs. BEFD stands for Better Every Fucking Day.
Woo! He said it.
Yeah, I had to.
He said it.
And I loved that when I saw that video come through because obviously I want to be better every day as well. I don't know how much I like the effing part. So now I do #better every day. But I digress. Purpose, passion, profitability, what's your vehicle? So I obviously, coach a lot of people, and a lot of it is, okay, what do you want to do with your life? And it's kind of like you start there, you go macroscopic. And it's like, okay, well, what's your purpose? And so this is the way that I break it down. And I talked to Kevin about this right before we jumped on the mic. The first thing is, what is your purpose? Which is like, what do you want to do? Be the change you wish to see in the world. What do you wish was different about the world? And how do you want to improve it, like you already mentioned? Passion is a craft. A passion is like basketball or snowboarding or first-person shooter video games or reading or speaking or podcasting. But this gets blurry because next is the medium or the vehicle that Kevin's referring to in this episode. And then the last one is profitability. How do you make it profitable? So you have your purpose, which is the change you want to make in the world, the impact. You have your passion, which is the craft that's going to actually do it, like an author that's writing every day. And then you've got the vehicle, which is books or blogs. And then you've got profitability, which is how much money you can make doing that in the world. And so today what we're going to talk about more than anything is the actual vehicle. And I'll share mine. So my vehicles are 5 things. Coaching is number 1. Consulting is number 2. Training is number 3. Speaking is number 4. And number 5 is podcasting. And all 5 of those, the common thing that I do, the purpose that I do on each of those 5 vehicles is maximize my own unique potential and help others do the same. Essentially, I am helping other people achieve their goals and dreams and maximize their potential. And so the mediums, the vehicles are coaching, consulting, podcasting, speaking, and training. And I guess the point of this episode is essentially, do you know your purpose? Do you know your passion, which is the craft? And by the way, the craft is oratory. It's speaking. It's communication. For all 5 of those, what do they all have in common? Coaching, consulting, speaking, training, and podcasting. They all have speaking as a main part of it, effective communication. So for you, what's your purpose? What's your passion, which is the craft? What's the vehicle? And then how are you going to make that profitable? And if you can answer all 4 of those, first of all, almost no one can answer all 4 of those consciously, by the way, so don't feel bad if you can't. But if you can, you're in a really, really good spot.
I think of it this way too, and I said this on a podcast the other day. I said, I don't think it's any coincidence that out of however many people we've had on the team, a fairly large percentage of them have gone on to start their own podcasts.
Oh, of course.
I don't think that's a coincidence. Do you know why? Because we showed them a sustainable vehicle.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all it is. It's just they saw us doing it and said, wow, that's their vehicle. Maybe I've never thought of that. Maybe I was attracted to them because they have a podcast.
Plus, we make it look so cool.
Yeah, we make it so it's so awesome, right? It's like we're rock stars.
Yeah, and then they come on the team and figure out what it takes, and they're like, nope.
Yeah, we were doing our scheduling last night with Brandon, and it was like, okay, we can do it here. I have 12 calls this day. Like, oh, yeah, we should be able to squeeze it between there. Even this one is like, we have a half hour or 45-minute slot to do this, and we're going to get it done. But I really think that's what it is at some level, we all want to impact the world in a positive way. I really believe that. And especially if you're listening to this show. If you're listening to this show, you're most likely more heart-driven than the average human. And now I know that at a deep level because we've had the opportunity to talk to so many of you. But then it gets to the point where, and I think this is the weird thing, it doesn't seem realistic. It's not that improving the world doesn't seem realistic. Improving the world while also becoming financially sustainable, I think for many people doesn't seem realistic. Mm-hmm. A podcast isn't necessarily something super hard to think about, but where people get stuck is they say, well, that's not a sustainable vehicle. That's not a vehicle that I could hitch my future to and get to where I want to get. And I think that's the interesting
Wait, why not?
Because it's very hard to make money. Statistically.
Yeah.
Statistically. And that's like the rarity. I saw this video the other day on social media. It was so cool. It said something about the beaches of Bali. And it said many people have gone to Bali and seen the darker sides of all the litter that's in the rivers and all that. I can't speak to that because I've never been. But there was a young, I think early 20s person who started this company. And his company was they cleaned up the rivers. And in the very beginning, it was like I went and I started getting litter from these rivers. I'd bring it to my parents' garage. I'd sort it, and then that would be it. And that was his purpose. His purpose was to clean up Bali, to clean up the world, to make the world more sustainable, to take care of the wonderful world we live in. And that turned into, well, then I had the opportunity to hire people. And then I had the opportunity to build like an infrastructure.
Well, wait, how did he make money? Did he get investment of other people that saw what he was doing? Or
in the very beginning, it was all him doing everything.
Okay. And then how did he hire people? Because there's a stage in between that. Either he became profitable or he got investors.
I believe he became profitable because he started taking his recycling and turning it into products.
Right.
That's what he was doing I think that's a big part of their business now.
Do you know what kind of products?
I think like...
Are you an investor in the company? I'm joking.
No, not yet.
I'm just kidding.
Not yet. I'm waiting for us to really hit it big so I'll have some funds to work with.
Some actual extra capital.
I'm not sure. I think some of them were like... Have you ever gone to a playground? You know how they have crushed up rubber sometimes instead of mulch?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's part of his business.
Nice.
I'm sure the plastic gets broken down and recycled into something else. I'm not exactly sure what. But okay, think of that. This person was like, my purpose, I feel like my purpose, the reason I'm here, based on the fact that I am so upset of what I saw, I'm so upset of all the litter that I saw, my purpose is to make this better. Cool. Easy. Right? I'm telling you, I think that's the easy part. I think the vehicle is the more difficult part. So when you think to yourself, I don't know what I want to do in the world, ask yourself this question. Do you not know what you want to do, or do you not know how to do it yet?
Right.
Do you not know how to deliver it to the world? Because from what I've seen, I don't know. And maybe for me this is a blind spot, but I think everybody wants to help in a certain way. I really do. And I just think when it comes to figuring out how do I help, that's where people get stuck.
I think some people want to just make money, but I think the majority of our listeners want to help the world in some way. And I think deep down, every human being wants to contribute. So I have that belief as well. But I have been a little bit, I don't want to say I've become cynical, but I have noticed there's some people that really don't care about like helping the world become better. That's been hard for me. Yeah. But anyways, so I think all of our listeners probably want to have a positive impact. The question becomes, and I talked to you a lot about this, Kev, I think a lot of people struggle with the how.
Yeah.
There's no question that you can make money with a podcast. Most people just don't know how.
Yeah.
And they aren't confident that they'll be able to do it. So there's the how that's really hard. And then even if you do have the how, here's the other part that people always miss, Kev. Even if you knew exactly how to build, let's say I were to take everyone listening behind the scenes of our business and show them exactly how to do the same, but their own unique podcast. Now they have to go do it.
Yeah.
So go do 1,000 episodes. Like, you know what I mean? That's not, so not only do you have to know how, but you actually have to do it, and you have to do it long enough and improve long enough. And that's a whole nother thing, right? Just because you know how to run a marathon doesn't mean you actually can persevere and do one. And so I think, you know, when it comes down to it, the purpose is, what do you want to do in the world? The passion is, what's the craft that you love enough to where you would do it even if it was free at first, because it will be. Mm-hmm. In this case, the person, you know, what do they want to do in the world? Clean up Bali and potentially beyond that. What's their passion is essentially recycling.
Yeah, sustainable
living, right? And picking up garbage, but then also making it useful. And then you've got the vehicle, which is business. Is it a nonprofit or a profitable business?
I think it's a profitable business.
Okay, so it's a business. The vehicle is business. So this person obviously has to learn about business in order to make their passion profitable. Yeah. And then there's profit, which is you sell these things to playgrounds or whatever, make a profit, reinvest it back in the business to then scale. So what started with one river probably turned into 2, turned into 4, eventually 8, 16, right? And that's how things scale. And I think what I've come to understand, I told you this recently, Kev, I think the how is really hard for people. Just because you know where you want to go in the GPS, and you know where you are now, self-awareness, and you know the vehicle, okay, I'm going to take a truck, not a car. Do you know how to drive a truck? Are you able to drive a truck for 12 hours a day or whatever, right? So there's the skill development piece too. It makes sense to me now why most people have trouble achieving their goals and dreams, because it is quite a challenging thing.
One of the questions we get asked most often is, what is my purpose and how do I figure out what I really want to do with my life?
And even if you're one of the few who do know what you really want, you might not know the steps to accomplish it, or even worse, you might not believe you can.
There's a bunch of people and programs out there that are trying to show you the easiest way, but not necessarily the best way for you.
Next Level Group Coaching is not only a place where you will understand yourself at a deeper level, but you'll also understand how everything you're learning applies specifically to you, to your life, and to your goals.
The Next Level You family is built on understanding, inclusiveness, and creating a supportive environment where you can always be your authentic self.
Many programs like this are literally thousands of dollars. Ours is not only more affordable than that, but with our 6-month payment plan, it's less than $100 per month.
And by the end of the first call, you'll have definite, clear, and specific goals. And by the end of the program, you'll have the exact daily steps to accomplish them or your money back.
At this point, our group coaching program has graduated dozens of people from all over the world. We only take 10 at a time, and honestly, we cannot guarantee the price will stay the same for future groups.
Now, there are a ton of reasons you should do this now, but the biggest one is that the version of you're working so hard on becoming is waiting. Yeah. And that's the other thing too is, and I always try to connect the dots, because I'll say this. I'll say, well, yeah, I'm a podcaster now. And then I tell the story of kind of what you told me. I said, I had, and Taryn loves when I talk about my past friends with benefits, but I had a friends with benefits who we were genuinely friends. I'm not just saying we were friends. She went on and got into like a really serious relationship, and she used to message me for advice. She literally would text me and say, hey, can you give me some advice on this? And I was like, yeah, of course I can. This is like my favorite thing in the world. Hell yeah. Anytime you need anything, just send me a message. Okay, cool. That's one part of me helping. Okay. And then on Snapchat, that was happening all the time. I don't know why Snapchat was the thing for you and I in the beginning, but like I had a lot of people reaching out to me on Snapchat, which was weird. The video on Facebook. Do you deserve to be happy? Okay, interesting. Listening to talk radio when I was a truck driver saying, imagine if you could do that for a living. Quitting every job I ever had without having another job because I always wanted to be my own boss. Again, it's easier for me to connect my dots because I am the one who lived from dot to dot to dot. But that's the thing is I didn't find my purpose. I found the vehicle. The purpose was already there. Mm-hmm. I just never knew the vehicle. And when Alan had me on his YouTube podcast, I said, wow.
Conversations change lives.
Yes, imagine if you could do that for a living.
They do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And Andrew said, you can do that for a living. People do it. And for me, that was the first time that I actually saw the vehicle. I saw the potential of that vehicle.
Would you say that conversation changed your life?
Changed my life? I would say so, yeah.
That was the point and purpose and vehicle of that, yeah.
It did.
So it's cool. Our purposes collided, and what was created out of that was Next Level University, eventually.
Now, I think
Crazy.
it's important to try a bunch of different stuff. But I think it's try a bunch of different stuff in alignment with the value that you want to add.
Of course.
Like, what do you want the world to be? Maybe that's not the frame. If you could facilitate a change on the world, what would that be?
Yeah.
If you know that, I want to help with domestic violence. I want to help low-income families get housing. I want to make blank safer. I want to, make blank more sustainable. Okay, cool. That's the purpose. Now you got to try different stuff for the vehicle. Podcasting, speaking, coaching, events, conventions, YouTube channel, crowdfunding, whatever it is. I think that's where people get stuck because that's where the action actually takes place. It's easy to say, well, this is what I'm meant to do. It's harder to say, okay, this is how I do it.
And it's even harder to stay consistent.
Definitely.
I think that's the other thing is like once you have the vehicle, can you drive that vehicle for every day for the rest of your life, essentially?
That's heavy.
And it's really challenging. I know we got to go here, but
I don't know what time. My phone is gone. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what time
it's
your next call
2:11
is.
p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
When's your next call?
I have no idea.
We're plenty of time. You and I are partying.
I have no idea. The calendar is my vehicle, and I have no idea.
We're good.
So let's say someone's a listener and they know their purpose, but they don't know their vehicle. How do they find their vehicle?
I would reflect on common patterns that you've experienced in the past. Times where you've said, wow, that would be awesome to do. Things that you're jealous of, things that you're envious of that you've seen other people do. I'm telling you, I used to hear people talk on the radio and say, imagine if you could just talk for a living. That would be the coolest thing in the world. If you could just talk for a living for 4 hours a day and be done. Now, that's not really what it is, but that's what I thought it was. So
That's funny.
I think it's part of you figuring out your unique talents and your unique desires and what are you good at? And what for you is sustainably fulfilling. I was watching a documentary on a fighter. His name is Sugar Sean O'Malley. And he fights, he plays video games, and that's kind of his thing. Like those are kind of his vehicles, fighting and video games. And those are the things he loves the most. Those are the things that he can consistently do the most. And again, that's not necessarily, I don't necessarily know what his purpose is. It's to be a great fighter and probably change the fight game, but he is really good at video games and he's really good at fighting and he's good at putting his own unique spin on each.
What's the video game? Because that's another vehicle within a vehicle, right? So video games is a macro vehicle, but what's the game?
Call of Duty.
Okay.
And that Fortnite.
Right. And then that changes over time too,
yeah.
Right? So video games, I used to be a semi-pro gamer, and sometimes it was PC games, Counter-Strike, Diablo 2, StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2.
Oh, here we go.
You know how it is. But the vehicle can also change because there's vehicles within vehicles. For a while, it was Xbox with Halo 1 and Halo 2. Eventually, it was PC with StarCraft 2, all that. And so you can have a macro vehicle of like video games is my thing. The purpose is to inspire people all over the world in XYZ way. The vehicle is video games, and then the console is, I don't know, Xbox. And I'm going to make it profitable through sponsorships or whatever. And so you just have to check these boxes off and more importantly, let them evolve as you do.
I have a good take.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Alan recently, and this was a while ago, and obviously things have changed. But I said, hey, I'm not rapping consistently. Do you think it's sustainable for me to block off like 3 hours on a Friday? And he's like, will it fill your cup? And I said, yeah. And he said, will it ultimately pour back into everything we're doing? And I said, yeah. He said, well, block it off. I did block it off for a while, and it was like, this is not sustainable. There's too much going on. Okay, think of this. Alan gave his 5 vehicles. I would say I have similar 5 vehicles. Mm-hmm. Pretty much the exact same when it comes to that, just probably in different... Except for writing. Yeah. No, not interested. Not for me. Not for me. Eventually at some point. But
he could also speak and then have a ghostwriter.
Yes.
Right? So there's always ways around that.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
I told you recently, I said, in the future, this is what's going to happen. I can see it. I'm playing for this. The podcast and everything we're doing, Next Level You will be one thing. And it'll always be the largest thing I do. I said, I'm going to have a YouTube channel about cars. I have to. I don't know how to explain it. I love cars. I love them. I've always loved cars. I want to have a YouTube channel about cars. Not just because of the cars, because I know at a deep level that will help us help more people. Because when they watch the YouTube channel, they'll say, well, what else did this guy do? Oh, podcast? Oh, 1,500 episodes, 1,000, 2,000 episodes, 3,000 episodes at this point. Awesome. Rapping. I love rapping. I'm decent at rapping. That is another way that I can get a positive message out about self-improvement. If you notice, most, my raps are not what you often hear in the rap industry. Yeah. They're more positive and they're more thought-provoking. That's one of my goals. So it might not necessarily
like Big Sean, right?
Like Big Sean. Big Sean.
Yeah.
Logic. Logic is another rapper who talks a lot about real life stuff. And I bet you that's somewhere in his purpose. I bet you somewhere in his purpose, it's to bring the message of this through rap.
Right. And I think rap is just the vehicle.
Rap is the vehicle. So if you think about it, in 5 years, in 10 years, however long it is, when you see the podcast, I have a YouTube channel and I have a rap YouTube channel or whatever it is, Spotify, whatever apps we have, just know that all those are because of this. Not separate from this. All those pour back into this because those are all my vehicles. They're what I love doing. They're what I'm pretty good at. And then martial arts, I don't know how that's going to lay in there, but I love doing them. I'm pretty good at them. And I know that they will bring back into the ultimate mission, the ultimate purpose.
Well, imagine if you design your life around NLU,
Yeah.
which is the podcast. Podcasting, podcast coaching, podcast consulting. So we'll just call that podcasting for number one.
Yep.
Let's say you also weave in cars. Let's say you weave in rap and you weave in mixed martial arts. That's a very unique brand that will draw in way more people than someone who only talks about one thing on one podcast.
Yep.
But if he tried to do that all at once, you would most likely fail at all of them.
Of course.
Rather than build them incrementally. So maybe rapping, it's not time yet. And remember, there's usually one that allows for all the others, right? So I use The Rock as an example. It was WWE for a while. Then eventually it was acting. And now he's starting these other businesses. He's got Under Armour, Ford. He's got Zoa, which is an energy drink. He's also got a tequila company. The acting is fueling the others. So you have to be careful not to take every passion and then be like, I'm going to build something out of this. What you do is you find the one purpose and let that drive you. Last point, and then we'll go. When Clubhouse got big, Kevin and I were very reluctant. I think, number one, the reason is it's a very egocentric platform of like, look how awesome I am. But more importantly, we have a purpose and we let that drive our decision making, not necessarily what's hot right now. And I think that most people in this industry jumped to Clubhouse because they're looking for that short gain versus building a long-term brand. Whereas for us, holistic self-improvement is the vehicle and podcasting is the vehicle. And we let that be the number one priority forever. And everything else can grow around that. Whereas some people who were podcasters all of a sudden started doing Clubhouse instead. And that's a mistake. That's a huge mistake. Just because Instagram was big at the beginning doesn't mean it will be 10, 20 years from now. So for Kevin and I, we chose a vehicle that we knew would last a lifetime. And that's why we're on YouTube too, because it's video. And then who knows, maybe one day we'll evolve to VR or whatever. I don't know. But I do know that like we're not going to be jumping from like Spotify didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. Just because Spotify suddenly does podcasts doesn't mean Kevin and I are going to suddenly redo the way we do podcasts. And so you got to be very careful not to jump with all these trends. You got to make your own trend and stay true to that trend. And that doesn't mean you can't leverage these platforms. It doesn't mean you can't use Snapchat or TikTok or Spotify, but don't let those quick hits take away from your long-term vehicle. That's a huge mistake that I see so many people doing. And I didn't realize back then that so few people are just very short-sighted in that. And you and I were very long-term thinkers in this space.
Well, and to add to Alan's point, I think that's an excellent point that if I was trying to do the podcast and the car thing and the rap thing and the mixed martial arts thing, it would not be sustainable now and nothing would grow at the rate NLU is growing.
Right.
So just to Alan's point,
and
eventually
NLU wouldn't grow as well as it is.
Would. Nothing would work the way it is now because I've put 100% of my time. I was going to say 110, but I know that's not statistically possible. So I'm not going to say that anymore.
Yeah.
But I've put probably, I don't know, we'll just say 80% of my time over the last 5 years, like all things considered, probably 80% of my time into this. Eventually, this will be running at a great rate where I will have the ability to do other things, but with the ultimate goal to bring everybody here because this is where the most value is. In terms of self-improvement, a car channel is not going to be me driving around talking about you are the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
You are the sum average of the 5 cars you buy.
I like that. It's going to be me doing that vehicle and then people saying, okay, what else is there here? What else is this guy
Kevin
all about?
Fighting someone in a car while rapping.
And then podcasting too.
In virtual reality on Clubhouse. I'm joking.
I researched I looked at Clubhouse today. I don't know why. For some reason, I looked it up.
Really?
So it's very interesting that you brought it up.
I didn't even know that. Yeah. I would bring that up. That's interesting. It's in the,
you would bring that up. All right. Anything in closing?
No, that's it, man.
Anything in closing quickly? Okay.
No more value.
Next Level Nation. One of the things that we are talking more about and leaning more into is helping you figure out what you want to do and helping you have a clear, specific goal that you can reverse engineer down to daily habits. If you are looking for more clarity out of your life and you really want to say, you know what, this is what I'm going for. This is what I'm leaning into, and this is who I want to become. Group coaching is starting. And is this going to be out in time? Yes, this is dropping tomorrow. So our group coaching round 8 starts October 4th. We are leaning into that. You will leave the first call with clarity, understanding what you want to do. And by the end of this program, you will have the daily steps to do it every single day and reverse engineer your long-term goals just like we're doing. So if you're interested, please join. It is way more affordable than you think. We have a bunch of different payment plans to make it sustainable for you.
So here's the problem. Most people know the results they want to achieve, like we talked about in this episode, but the things they want, better body, better business, better relationship, are actually effects, not causes. So I wrote an article called Quantum Goal Setting that focuses on the causes, not the effects. The results goals are the causes you want: better body, better income, better business, better relationship. The causes are character goals, mentor goals, inner circle goals, process goals. So click the link in the show notes. There's an article on my LinkedIn called Quantum Goal Setting. It's like a 10-minute read, and it takes you step by step by step. I actually did it earlier with one of the NLU team members. She was feeling a little bit lost, and I said, let's just go through this exercise and let's get you back in alignment. Essentially what you're going to do is, if you do the exercise, you're going to essentially leave that article going, okay, I have a direction now. I know I want to achieve these 3 things, and I know exactly what is underneath those 3 things to achieve them. It's a really powerful article. Check it out.
Boom. Next Level Nation, tomorrow for episode number 1109 is agree to disagree, a bad thing for a relationship. So, oftentimes people say, well, we're just going to agree to disagree here. Is there a way around that? What is the thought process? That was a question we got for our last live Q&A. As always, we love you, appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans, we have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.